Let's begin today with our affirmation, which is behind me on the wall. Let's say it all together. I treat myself with love and respect each day. I am grateful. Now, if you go ahead and stand with me, we'll sing together our opening song by Faith Rivera.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The daily word for Sunday, October 7th, is rejoice. And the affirmation is, I rejoice in unlimited possibilities. The Apostle Paul describes himself in the second letter to the Corinthians as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. He calls upon his followers in Philippi to rejoice in the Lord always. By recognizing and thinking about the positive, the lovely, the excellent, and the praiseworthy energies in my life, I claim them and I increase them. I rejoice when I both feel and express the joy of eternal spirit. There is energy in the infinite good that brings all people together in consciousness. I join with others in knowing and affirming that nothing is denied us through faith. I keep my focus on positive energies, bringing them in greater expression in my life. I rejoice in unlimited possibilities. The scripture is from Philippians 4:4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. So together, I rejoice in unlimited possibilities.
And I was just going to give a little Rev Deb update. So I got to visit her this week. I actually flew over to Oahu twice. And so it's been quite a week of radiation treatments, but she is doing stronger. She hopes to be released tomorrow from the hospital, and then she'll be recovering at my brother's house now, where we're setting up a wonderful room for her just to recuperate and recover. But she's, as you've probably started getting texts and messages, she is on fire. She was like, we got to get to work. We needed to work on the bulletin. You know, she's still working because she loves it. And I just have to share that the joy of anyone who comes into contact with her want to keep being around her. They want to be her nurse, and they want to be scheduled around her time to take her to her treatments, because she just brings that love wherever she goes, even through this time. So yeah, but we'll still hold her in thoughts and prayers, and the whole family. And now with that, we're going to visualize the sanctuary as a beautiful heart. We fill our heart with love, caring, and compassion that we have for ourselves and each other. If you know of anyone in need of prayer, see them in our heart. And if you know of anyone in need in your world, or in our world in need of prayer, see them in your heart as we sing our meditation song.
Every breath, there's a choice to make. Every dawn is another opportunity to shine. Be a light for all to see. The choice is mine. Manifest the destiny so divine. I will choose love, I will choose kindness, I will choose peace in every word I say. I will choose love, I will choose honor, see the divine in everything that comes my way, each and every day. I will choose love. choose love. I will choose kindness. I will choose peace in every word I say. I will choose love. I will choose honor. See the divine in everything that comes my way. Each and every day, I will choose love.
I've been asked to do the meditation today. Heavenly Father, we come together to recognize the presence within each one of us, the love we all share, the one infinite spirit that spans across the entire universe through every living being, and of course through each one of us. At this moment, we choose to recognize that which we all share, that which is and always has been and always will be. The infinite light that shines within each one of us recognizes itself when we meet another. We need only get out of the way, then let the light shine through. And peace prevails. It is the natural order. So today, in recognizing this common thread we all share, we now take a moment and provide silence that it may speak through all of us. Though there may be many thoughts that cover this presence and this common thread, we recognize that we need only quiet our minds, and this forever presence will fill any need we may have. Amen.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing this morning? I'm going to hold this for a bit. When my oldest son was just a toddler, just a little one, and he was first seeing his reflection in the mirror, just like a mirror kind of like this, like any kind of mirror, seeing themselves, my mom would say to him, "Who is that handsome boy in there? That is your best friend. I love you, Max." and he would say that. She's proceeded to do that with all of my kids and all of her grandkids. My mom wanted to teach my kids to know from birth that they must love themselves first and truly think of themselves as their best friend. How many of you think of yourself as your best friend? Yes, all right, fantastic. Louise Hayes, an author and often speaker in the New Thought Movement and Unity, who has the Hay House, she has this activity of looking at yourself in the mirror, a 30-day challenge, so to speak, where you look in the mirror and say, I love you. And you look at your eyes and deeply in your eyes and say, I love you. Well, Cheryl Richardson, another self-help writer, she was with her on Oprah one time when she first heard this activity. And I wanted to read what she had wrote about it. For most people, the idea of telling themselves, I love you, as they look in a mirror is a tricky exercise. The thought of doing so can feel awkward or silly. It's just not an easy thing to do. In fact, for several days after the show, I intended to practice Louise's suggestion, but I just kept forgetting about it. Then one night before I was going to bed, I was washing my face when I remembered my intention. Finally, with the mirror in full view, I looked into my eyes and said, I love you, Cheryl. Immediately, I felt self-conscious, as if someone was watching me. I tried it again and glanced away, feeling embarrassed. On my third attempt, I found myself focusing on the wrinkles around my eyes, the hairs that needed to be plucked at the edges of my brows, and the way my skin seemed to sag a bit by my throat. Great, I thought. My attempt of self-love has now turned into a critical assessment of my aging process. I was failing miserably. What's so silly about telling ourselves that we love ourselves? Why is it so difficult to do something that is seemingly so simple? Because looking at ourselves intently, especially into our eyes, is a profoundly intimate act. As often as we use a mirror to perform grooming or maintenance tasks, rarely do we ever stop to gaze into our eyes for longer than a few seconds. Because when we do, there's no hiding. Most of us come face to face with the truth that we've abandoned that person we see in the mirror. I know that as I stared into my own eyes and repeated the phrase, I love you, Cheryl, I had to confront the fact that the statement didn't ring true. The reality was that I saw flaws long before I felt love. And that's the point. It goes on to say, as she kept doing it, she softened. And with each time, it became, every time she'd see the reflection in a car window or mirror, it became more natural just to say, I love you. She goes on to say, to practice extreme self-care, you must learn to love yourself unconditionally. Accept your imperfections and embrace your vulnerabilities. From a spiritual perspective, it's about recognizing that you're a soul in a physical body who's here to learn to be more of who you really are. When you treat and view yourself with the respect you deserve, you experience the peace from being present to yourself, which leads us right into today's theme and this month's theme about treating ourselves and others builds a firm foundation. So that's what we're talking about today. So if love is the first ingredient in building that firm foundation, I wanted to talk about, is it easy to show love to a child, a newborn baby, to your favorite pet, to your loved and cherished animal? That's how we have to treat ourselves. Then we can radiate that love out so easily. So if love is in the many ingredients, so as I was writing this, I was deciding, well, what else would be some values? And I came across one of my mom's talks. Thank you, Mom. Values to live by. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale was considered the father of positive thinking. He was a famous lecturer, radio host, and editor of Guidepost magazines. He wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. He lived his teachings. He was a great teacher and minister. And he made this action booklet called 7 Values to Live By. And those values are integrity, courage, enthusiasm, happiness, faith, hope, and love. So we've already touched upon love. We're going to dive a little deeper into these other values. They might be values that you're already using in your life today. And many times we need to be reminded again and again so that we can increase the quality of our lives. These values, he says, will create a sterling character. So we're going to first look at happiness. In writing the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson wrote that we have certain inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our forefathers, the men who fought for freedom, had an objective. They created a mission statement for all of us to live by. We must have freedom to be what we can be, and we are all entitled to be happy. In 1992, social psychologist Peter Gorner wrote in the Chicago Tribune about the measure of people's feelings of happiness. In it, he wrote, after reviewing thousands of studies, I have discovered that people who are energetic, decisive, flexible, creative, and sociable are happy. And that people who are happy are more loving, more responsive than unhappy people. They tolerate frustration well and are more willing to help others. And we know this is true by all of the documentation now proven by science and medicine. So in an article by Dr. Peel, he wrote that science has found that close friends brings happiness, but money and possessions don't. So we remember that happiness comes from knowing you can handle things through the God center in your life. A God-controlled life equals freedom. So to be happy, find a human need and fill it. True happiness lies in giving. So be willing to give of your time, talents, and treasures. I know that's bringing me back to my dance because that's my treasure and my gift. And I know all of you have so many gifts, and I know that's when it feels good. My class on Wednesday that I had didn't even feel like work again, and I forgot how much I loved teaching kids. All right, our next value is faith. Jesus said, if ye have faith as grain of a mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, move, and it shall move, and nothing shall be impossible to you. Matthew 17:20. In this passage, we learn that it only takes a spark of faith to change your mind, to act differently, and to let go. The reason we do not attain more in our lives is because we do not believe in ourselves, writes Dr. Peel. Come out of disbelief in yourself. Believe that God made you a good person and let it come out of you. Do not settle for living your dreams, said J.D. Freeman wrote. God meant for you for more. Listen, be still. He can hear you. And it says there is a better, stronger, more remarkable man or woman in you. You will never be happy until you bring him or her out of you. We gotta have faith, faith, faith was a song. I was gonna play more music, make you dance, but that'll be the next time I talk. And as we go on to our next virtue, which is integrity. So that one, as I was going through it, there was a bunch of quotes here. Bible verses, really. If God be for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. We also know that in Proverbs it is written, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. What values are in your heart today? What values are you committed to living and learning in your life? So we're looking at integrity. Integrity is a firm adherence to a code of moral values. When you feel a person that has integrity, you trust them, don't you? Honesty is a key factor in integrity. Dr. Peel said that one of the best ways to strengthen your standards of honesty is to speak out forcibly against dishonesty wherever and whenever we come into contact with it. We have all had opportunities in our lives to come forth with truth, but for reasons of being afraid of rejection or of not being liked or of being smug or self-righteous, we hold back, and thus we condone what is happening by not saying anything. And yet when we speak up and face our fear of being honest, we really are empowered. When we hear that still small voice, sometimes it's a booming voice, telling us what needs to be said or done by us, we are guided and directed to do what needs to be done now. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, wrote, integrity is the quality of consciousness, which makes one unswerving in his or her conformity to the divine standard. That means we'll not waver in our presence of truth. If we are easy on our wrongdoers, we end up being easy on ourselves, writes Dr. Peel. And on the other hand, if we speak out loud and clear in favor of honesty, we make it difficult for ourselves to be anything but honest. So integrity relates to character and honesty. Okay, we're moving on to courage. It is the strength to do what is right regardless of consequences. Successful living requires courage. I had to have a lot of courage to stand up here again today. It was a last-minute thing that the speaker couldn't speak today. And at this time, I was like, uh-oh, my mom can't do it, and uh-oh. And I was like, but I can't overdo last week, can I? That took a lot of practice. But I told myself I had to do it. I'm doing it for myself and my mom. And courage is a God talent that gives us the strength to do what we have been afraid to do. So I had spent a lot of time in meditation this morning that I would be able to have the courage to stand up here and give this talk again. So thank you for having me. Charles Fillmore writes, "Courage is a spiritual quality that enables one to remain poised and centered in God amidst great difficulties and danger." When I was at Unity Village, when I was in high school, I was an international officer. And in this room, he has all of Charles Fillmore's quotes on this wall. And the room sort of vibrates with this electricity. And I was going on we had these spirit walks that we went on. It was one of our conferences, our youth conferences. And I was getting ready to do my first talk in front of an audience. So I think at this conference, there were 600 teenagers from all over the United States. And I was nervous. I was so nervous because they were going to vote on us if we were going to be an international officer. And he had and I wish I would have gotten it, but it was, be strong, and no, that wasn't the one. It was a courage quote, and I don't have it, but I'm going to find it. But it was amazing, and it got me through. And I sat there, and I was like, I have the courage to do this. And I just had to reach inside. I did win on International Officer that year, and I got to travel all over the United States and see all different Unity churches all over. It was an amazing experience. And yeah, so the more courageous our thinking, the greater our results will be. And that's the truth. I had to think big. I could do this. I was from California church at the time, because we still lived in California, and I was just moving to Hawaii. And they're like, oh, well, now you're going to be far for travel. Can you do that? I said, I can do that. I'll be happy to take planes. And I did it. And the last value we're going to go over today is enthusiasm. That is like my favorite. I'm a cheerleader, so I can do enthusiasm. So today, enthusiasm is a passion for life. Dr. Phil McCraw says, to find your passion, just keep kissing those frogs until one of them lights you up. Emerson wrote, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Enthusiasm keeps us in the now moment. And that is the truth. It's cheerleading class that I've started with my dance. It's a cheerleading dance. And these little ones are so excited. And it keeps me in the moment by far. But I have to have that enthusiasm. And it is amazing what happens. We become enthusiastic by practicing the act as if principle. Act as if you are enthusiastic, and you will eventually will be. Begin your day with enthusiastic thoughts. Begin your day with Psalms 118-24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let it rejoice and be glad in it. So once again, I'm bringing you back to my dance students. Before they perform, I always have us do a cheer. And I have them repeat after me. And it's I want them to feel excited and empowered up there. So usually it's, I am a great dancer. They'll repeat after me that. We are great dancers. And then I always have us say, I am awesome. And they repeat after me, just to have that enthusiasm within them that they can do it. I think I skipped over one, and I'm going to go to hope. That will be our final virtue that we're going to talk about today. Hope, the next value, is the expectation of good in the future, writes Charles Fillmore. When you live with hope in your heart, in your mind, and in your spirit, you have discovered one of life's most powerful secrets of success, says Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Whenever you go out of doors, draw the chin in, carry your head high, fill the lungs, drink in the sunshine, greet your friends with a smile, put soul into every handshake. Picture in your mind the able, earnest, useful person you desire to be. The thought will transform you into that particular individual. We become like that on which our thoughts are fixed. The lesson here is to get hope into your thought pattern, and there will be nothing that you cannot overcome. There is a world of differences between these two words, hopeless and hopeful. Focus on that hope, the thoughts to create a hope-filled attitude within you. Think, talk, and act hopefully. As you do, hopelessness will lessen and hopefulness takes over. A man was driving home from work one day, and he stopped to watch a local Little League baseball game that was being played at a park near his home. As he sat down behind the bench at the first baseline, he asked one of the boys, "What's the score?" The boy got a big smile on his face and said, "We're behind 14-0. The man said, "Really? You don't look very discouraged." He said, "That's because we haven't been up to bat yet." Christ in you, your hope of glory. The hope of glory. So many times we do not have hope because we are locked into our own way of thinking. We get caught up in our mind that we think that we are the only ones who can figure our way out of our situation. Instead, what we can do is go to that quiet oasis within. We would find that there's a whole other stream of thought inside of us that is from God that will give us all the answers we desire. On one occasion, that master escape artist Harry Houdini failed to make one of his spectacular escapes for which he was so famous. He was carefully searched by the jailers and then tied up with ropes and chains and handcuffs, and the jailers closed the cell door and walked away. Houdini quickly, almost magically, freed himself from the shackles and then began working on the cell lock. But despite all of his best efforts, the lock wouldn't open. Finally, frustrated and near exhaustion, he leaned against the door and it swung right open. The jailer forgot to lock the door. Aren't we like Harry Houdini sometimes? We think we're locked in. We have ourselves chained and handcuffed in position, and we just sit there trying to pick that lock, when in reality it's never been locked. So how many doors are locked in your life? How many times have you tried to pick a lock? Instead of trying to pick that lock in your human mind, let us step back and go to that God of our being for renewed hope, and know that the door is going to swing open on its own because God is always with us. In Romans 5:4 it says, "Endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint us, because God's love has been poured into hearts through the Holy Spirit that has been given to us." It is the whole Spirit of God which contains hope. By adopting a set of values to live by, and by being conscious about what we create, we can have happiness, satisfaction, and the success we want in life. We must commit to these values. Live them, use them, make them be a walking, talking, thinking, breathing, feeling way of life. So let's go over those. I'm going to go back to my first thing. So those 7 values are integrity, courage, enthusiasm, happiness, faith, hope, and love. Remember, you can use them at any time, and you are awesome. Thank you, everyone.